All right, folks, welcome. My name's, let's go. We can be loud here tonight. This is all supposed to be fun. My name's Travis Pangburn. I'm Canadian, and this is a fucking invasion. Fuck yeah. I am sick and tired of the lying, of the extortion of Ukraine while they're under war duress from Russia. I am sick and tired of these appointments. RFK Jr. is literally the king of anti-science. Do you guys agree? Some of you? So this is why I brought the anti-Trump tour to the United States. I'm Canadian, and you just got fucking invaded. So rock and roll. 51st state, my ass. So just clip all that and tag Trump in it somewhere. But we're going to be bringing this to every state in the United States, so we hope you guys follow us around. Our next event, there might be one in between, but the one we have planned and announced is going to be in South Carolina, Charleston. We are invading with the Anti-RFK Jr. tour, which is featuring Professor Dave Explains from YouTube. Do you guys know Professor Dave? Yeah, I love Professor Dave. And with his sidekick, none other than Debunk the Funk Dr. Dan Wilson. So we are invading South Carolina because the child vaccination rates there are going like this. And that scares the shit out of me. It's happening in your country. A lot of it scares the shit out of me. What happens in the United States affects everyone. And there are a lot of Canadians, I'm from Canada, I've already said that are worried about what's going on down here. So I just wanted to make that clear. We've never done anything like this before. Usually it's two best-selling authors and intellectuals on stage having a discussion. We've never had civilians coming up to debate on the Pangburn stage, but we're going to do that today, or members of the general public, I should say. But we are going to do that today. We have 8 debaters in the room here who are brave enough to step on the stage with one of the very best. Destiny's in the house. He is. So I'm going to call them up one by one once we get Steven out here and say hello to him. And they're going to get about 10 minutes with Steven to make their case, and we're going to get some hardcore, hard-hitting debate action, I hope, here tonight. Hello, everyone on YouTube. Who loves the Destiny YouTube channel? Yes. I know I love it. I follow Steven, and I love watching his streams. We hope you guys come over and subscribe to our channel. We are youtube.com/Pangburn. We've produced some of the largest scale live intellectual discussions that this planet has ever seen. You'll probably have seen the Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris series, the 4-parter. That's our big one. And also, Jordan Peterson hates it when I tell people about his debate with Matt Dillahunty. Don't miss that one. Make sure you watch it. I pump it out there constantly. I won't let it die. He hates that one. Sorry, Jordan. Sorry, not sorry. Anyways, I want to thank quickly Mongoose Films for being here. They are fucking awesome. I love them. They're doing such a fantastic job. I hope you guys get an amazing live stream out of this, all of you watching on YouTube. Yes, make sure you go over and subscribe to Pangburn. One more thing I want to plug. We have a Discord community that grounds itself in some of the things that I like to see when we produce a discussion. That is good faith, helpful discourse. 2 basic rules that hold the Pangburn Universe together. They're my dialectical minimum requirements for a fruitful dialectic, I call them. So by good faith, I mean simply bring your sincere intentions to have a good conversation. And we should all know what helpfulness looks like at this point in our life. But within this context, it would kind of look like if your debate partner is struggling, reach out, give them a hand. Don't dogpile on them. Give them a hand to give you the strongest form of their argument. So we promote that, but join our Discord server. We'd love to have you guys there. We have conversations going on all the time. Special thank you to Don Prager, Thomas Panter. There's an advertisement out there for a war of ideas that they are waging of their own. They have declared ideological war on idealism. For those of you who are interested in philosophy will know what idealism is. Talk to them about that if you want to get involved with that war. So we've got lots of wars going on. But this is how I hope in the future wars will be fought on our planet. Wars of ideas, wars on the debate stage. That's what I love. This is why I do this. I live for it. I breathe it. I dream of it. That's enough for me. You guys didn't come here to see me. Please welcome to the stage Donald Trump's worst nightmare, Destiny.
What's up? Wait.
All right. Well, you've been at this a long time. Now you get to come out and hang out with your fans. How does it feel?
Feels good.
Yeah.
Wait to like settle for like a minute or two, make sure I'm not gonna get killed by anybody, and yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it's good. Yeah.
So far, I haven't spotted any murderers. There was a few out there I wasn't too sure about, but yeah. And then the question you already asked, or I already asked. You know, what do you expect to get out of a conversation or a debate with a Trump supporter?
Yeah, I think generally we all care about similar things. We want to be able to afford a place to live. We want to be able to have things like healthcare and food and a car and a family and, fun on the weekends. And kind of like looking at it from a similar foundation, I just try to show people that the things that you care about or the things you want won't be furthered by the current administration.
Gotcha. All right, in saying that, let's just get rocking here. We're going to start with TREY SALINAS. Please welcome TREY SALINAS to the stage. Give him a round of applause.
Hey, Destiny, I'm Trey. Mic check, good? Hey, thank you all so much for the clap. Destiny, can I shake your hand?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
I don't want to mess the cameras up too much, but yeah. All right.
Okay. So thank everybody. Thank you for watching. I kind of wanted to talk about the MAGA is a cult thing, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
And I want to bring up my argument, I guess, and you can debunk it or deconstruct it however you like. So I think MAGA is more appropriately should be called a culture. When I think of cult, I think of things like the People's Temple, things like the Branch Davidians, or the Moonies, or...
I'm curious, for those things, what makes them a cult to you? Why do you view them as cultish?
Yeah, I read the book, The Cult of Trump by Dr. Steven Hassan. Everybody should read it, Republicans too, right? Read it with a grain of salt. Dr. Hassan is critical of Trumpers, but that it's cool, read it, right? So I think the biggest things he goes off of are the bite model and the influence continuum. The bite model being cults control your behavior, they control the information you intake, your thoughts, and your emotions. And then the influence continuum is like and I'm kind of like being very general because I can't recite the whole book, but influence continuum is like there's a healthy side of a cult and there is an unhealthy side of a cult. Personally, as a Trump supporter, I'm not really, I don't think my behavior is controlled by the MAGA movement, or my thoughts are controlled by the MAGA movement, or neither is my emotions or the information I take in. Like I can watch your channel, I can watch other like left-wing channels or independents or whatever. Same as I can also watch Fox News too, right? So with that, I also don't see the value in calling a cult like a positive thing. I'm kind of leaning more to where like it's just you're not a cult, because cults are very destructive generally, right? If we look back at the etymology of the word, when I did some research, it's like a cult comes from, the word cult comes from cultus, which was Latin, which comes from colere, which Latin and French, and that meant to till. And it's also, that's where we get words like cultivate from too. And then colere in French is anger. It's like a direct translation to anger. So that's where I think we get like an emotional attachment to the word cult.
I'm curious, random question. You ever seen Rick and Morty?
No. Maybe like one episode.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Okay.
There's some episode in the first season where they're in like a giant hallucination, and the crude depiction of the hallucination is they're on like a treadmill, and the computer is like generating reality in front of them as they're running. And I think that one of the scariest things when I look at how I guess like the Trump movement operates is it truly feels like Trump can put anything he wants in front of the Trumpists, and there's always going to be a way that it's okay, even if it literally contradicts what came 5 minutes before. So I think a really good example of this is the tariffs and everything surrounding the tariffs. So originally, the idea behind the tariffs was to bring back manufacturing, which is a good idea because we want to have domestic manufacturing. So when he announces the tariffs, everybody's happy because it means domestic manufacturing is going to come back. But then when he gets rid of the tariffs, then it's good because it was a negotiation, but I'm not entirely sure what for, because if he's negotiating to trade with a bunch of other countries, well, isn't that not having domestic manufacturing then? And it seems like on my stream, I always call this, you might have heard me say this, like all roads lead to Rome, where no matter what Trump does, there's always a way to justify it. And I think that's one of the scariest, I don't know if you call it a cultish aspect to it, that is frightening to me. Biden had a really disastrous debate performance. Republicans celebrated and Democrats cowered in fear. It was horrible. We all felt that. And after that, that debate performance was so bad that basically the entire Democratic establishment pushed Biden away from running for the presidency again. I don't think that Trump could do anything like that would ever cause Republicans to push him away. And I think that's been demonstrated on at least 5 or 6 different occasions over the past few months. The tariffs one being one of the larger ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious because and I started kind of asking this question to people like, is there anything that Trump could do that you think would be over the line for, maybe not necessarily for you, but for over half of the Trump supporters?
Over half. I'm sure there are things, like if he did something crazy, illegal and obvious.
I'm going to say there have been crazy things and obvious things, like not bringing back Abrego Garcia, I would say is pretty crazy.
Well, I'm not too familiar with that one, but but we can talk, like, one of the things you mentioned was that they'll always follow him. I feel like as a MAGA Trumper, shout out to Dr. Fafo on the Pangburn Universe, I feel like as a MAGA Trumper, right, Trump supporter, I can critique his tariffs and I can be like, that is directly against free market ideology, right? And I don't think the tariffs, I don't think they're permanent. Another thing you said.
Well, here, so this is like this is a thing I noticed had happened. So if you were to rate the badness of the tariffs on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the president wore a tan suit, and 10 is the president pushed the button to nuke the entire world, how bad do you think the tariffs are on that scale from 1 to 10?
I don't know, maybe 5. Like, the reason why I'm like kind of in the middle on some of these things. So like the tariffs, I know people that want to buy Chinese products, and now they're like, it's as expensive as American products, or it's going to be.
Well, I think so. Just so you gave it a 5. I feel like most economists would probably put that anywhere from like a 7 to a 9 in terms of how unbelievably insane the tariff regime is right now. So I noticed it feels like there's kind of a minimizing of the effect that Trump might be having on the United States and the world. And then so you said that was a 5. Can you give me like a single action that you would have been worried about from Kamala, or something that Joe Biden did that you think would be over a 5 in comparison to like the tariffs? Like, what's something you were worried about with Kamala, or something that Biden did that you felt like would have been worse than the tariff stuff with Trump?
Well, I didn't really like the way we exited Afghanistan. It was long coming. Everybody,
the exit from Afghanistan was as bad as the tariff situation?
Well, they're different things, right? Economic and military. I think it was a very bad performance, or is hard to look at. I was from the military, so it's really hard to look at that, to see like my country put like that. If I can bring it back to the cult thing, though.
Okay. Wait, one more thing.
Yeah.
That because I'm just curious. Are you familiar with who negotiated the Afghanistan pullout thing?
Yeah, I've been Trump did the Abraham. No, not the Abraham. It was
the Doha agreement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. That. We could definitely. That's that agreement, right? I don't even want to talk about this. But
sorry. Yeah, we don't have to. Well, but then I noticed that there's like this. It's this. People laughed earlier when you said you weren't as familiar with the Abrego Garcia thing. Is because it seems like in the MAGA world. I personally don't subscribe to that cult model, not because I don't believe it, but I just haven't researched enough on it. But you brought up the I part, which is the information control.
Yeah.
And it's the idea that like, if I were to ask a Trump person about like trans sports, they could give me like 15 different competitions where a trans woman, just won over some cisgender women. But then if I ask like, oh, have you heard about this, this green card or visa holder who was deported with no due process to a slave camp in another country, the only country he was, ordered by our courts not to be deported back to, and it was in violation of a TRO by signing an order on a Friday night and then shipping this guy to the country, like an unbelievable set of circumstances. And it's like, well, I really don't know anything about that. But like in Riley, by the way, and it's just like, it feels like we just moved. It's like, okay, yeah. But same thing with the Afghanistan thing. Like one of the big complaints that Trump had leaving office was that the deep state was, fighting against him and, they wouldn't listen to his orders. And one of the orders that he reportedly gave was he wanted to draw down everybody out of Afghanistan before he left. And I think it was Mattis that said, we're not doing that. I'm just going to ignore that. So it's just, that's an interesting issue to have when I feel like the negotiation for the Doha agreement was horrible. More soldiers died in Afghanistan under Trump than they did under Biden during the pullout. And the dead soldiers there is tragic, but man, we were not set up to leave well at all.
We were. I mean, we were. With the deportation, I think whatever's within the law, whatever the law allows, I'm good with that.
So this is another thing that's really scary to me is when people say whatever the law is, because Donald Trump will tell you what he thinks the law is all the time. So if Donald Trump decides to deport a citizen and he says, well, I think that in the Constitution it says naturalized citizens don't count as people who like came here and were lawful permanent residents and then were naturalized under citizens, I don't think they count. Then that's the scary part, I think, from our end, is that Trumpers will say, oh, well, as long as it's following the law, and he says it's following the law, therefore he can do that. And it's like, well, in that case, we can basically justify anything. Yeah.
I'm scared of, what do you call it? Disappearances. I don't like that. I've read too many books about that kind of stuff, like disappearances. So I'm kind of with you on that.
You can just read court documents right now about the disappearances that are happening in this current administration. But
yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk more about why. Let's do the due process thing, the thing that we're supposed to be doing, right? Mm-hmm. So I can find some common ground with you on that for sure.
On that note, unless you have another quick question.
There's one thing, because I cut off a lot.
So, you bet.
One thing. Yeah, sorry. You wanted to bring us back to a point. I'm sorry, and I derailed you hardcore.
No, you're good. You're good. I guess, do you see any merit? Because I probably don't have time to talk about the cult thing, but do you see like any merit to that? Like it being a culture instead of a cult?
The reason why I talk about it being a cult, it has to do with personal experiences I have and then anecdotal experiences of other people's personal experiences, is that the Trump stuff seems to be manifesting in a way that's unlike any other political movement in history. Like sometimes you'd have people and you disagree politically on things, but I've seen so many people now in my own subreddit, I've gotten emails, and I've had it personally happen to me with personal friends where somebody sends you a message and they're like, hey, did you see this thing on Candace Owens? Or did you see this thing on that RFK said? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh God. And inevitably, 6 months later, it'll be like, did you know that Israel not only did 9/11, but they were also in charge of the train derailment? And did you know that blah, blah, blah? And it's like, they're gone. Like, and it's this weird world because people ask me like, how do you get a person out of this? And you have to treat it basically like, I would say like an abusive relationship or a cult, where you can be kind of like supportive and loving, but that's it. There's nothing that you can say or do. There is no fact that can permeate the force field or the shield of all the Trump stuff. And that's I think that's why I view it as a cult. And it's how I think people have to kind of approach people that get sucked into it. But
on a scale of 1 to 10, since you gave me a scaling, maybe I can return it. What do you think? 10 being like the People's Temple and 1 being like it's a right-wing political movement?
Probably 7 or 8. I think even Republicans admitted when Trump came into office, he wasn't really a strong conservative like at all. His lifestyle absolutely is not conservative, right? He's closer to me than fucking
for sure.
Than anything else. So it doesn't seem to be a movement rooted in conservatism at all. And like all of your traditional conservative values are totally absent now, I think, in the MAGA movement. So
he was a Democrat at some point.
Yeah.
But like, so the People's Temple, I don't know if you read too much on that, but like there was a serious thing that happened. It's where the phrase "drink the Kool-Aid." I encourage everybody to read that. Right. Lots of people, almost 1,000 people. Like I don't even know if I could say it.
I would say more people probably died than the Kool-Aid drinkers than people who didn't get vaccinated. I would compare that to.
Well, that's another thing. It's like Trumpers. A lot of Trumpers like didn't take the vaccine. And that's
vaccines now, right?
Yeah, but that's what he made with Warp Speed. Like,
yeah, kind of weird.
All right, Trey. Great run. Thanks, man.
There you go.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay. Yeah. So thanks a lot for Travis, right? That's his name, Travis, for flying me out, man. Good to see. The audience is great here. So Destiny, yeah, thanks guys. Good. So Destiny, I wanted to ask you this, man. You've stated in the past that I guess that the MAGA right is notorious for violence. You've said this. You called them degenerates, etc. That Trump kind of insinuates a lot of the rhetoric and the actions of Trump supporters. Am I more or less correct on that?
I don't usually criticize them for violence. I think I think the tendency, I mean, especially since the BLM stuff, there's more, at least cumulatively, violence for left-leaning people. But I would also kind of expect that right now, given the state of affairs. Huh?
Oh, okay. So wait, when you say that you expect the violence from the left on the state of affairs,
as in, like, if you have like a certain system where people feel like somebody is completely and totally out of line, and that person is using the power of the executive to be totally out of line, well, they're like, what would conservatives even enact violence about? They would have nothing to protest. They'd have nothing to riot over. I imagine it would be probably more left-leaning people that would be rioting.
that would be rioting?
Yeah.
So, like, for example, like the Tesla burnings that were happening, it was all premeditated. They had the Doge, DogeChase.com or something like that kind of premeditated all that. So, like, my thing is that when I look at the Trump election and how he got elected, and maybe I can ask you this, I think one of the reasons that Trump got elected in the first place was because when you say, like, for example, with your other opponent here, when you say the MAGA right is a cult, I'm thinking in my head that the Democratic Party at this point is actually a cult as well, you know, regardless of what it is. Now,
Who's our cult leader?
oh, well, here's the thing. I don't know who the cult leader is, but it's the
Wasn't that kind
Democratic
of
Party as a whole, right? No, well, here's the thing. It could be a cult without it because, like, for example, vote blue no matter who. You've heard that phrase, right? The anti-Trump tour, like we're on right now. It's a cult that's against Trump no matter what, right? So we've seen this to where Elon Musk at one point had the Tesla vehicles that a lot of left-wing people were buying. Then, of course, Elon Musk wasn't necessarily supporting Trump at first. He was a Ron DeSantis guy, etc. Then he turned to Trump. Then we saw that after he supported Trump and he donated it to him, we saw a lot of the left wing kind of burn down Teslas and be violent about this, right?
Well, I don't really think that was the only thing he did. I think it was also the fact that he joined Trump as an unelected bureaucrat and began unilaterally shuttering federally approved agencies in the government while, like, engaged in the most insane over-the-top rhetoric on X.
What's the most insane over the top?
Like constantly calling for judges to be impeached or imprisoned, or saying that...
Which judges? I'm not too...
the recent judge that just made a ruling related to... basically anytime a new TRO gets issued, I think that he's done it for the Zini lawyer. I think he's done it for Brasberg. But he tweets about judges.
So he wanted to get them removed because
he doesn't like it when they issue a TRO against Trump. But wait, just real quick, you're not familiar with Elon engaging in any like anti-judicial rhetoric on X?
I know Elon Musk has stated that he doesn't like these individuals, which is fair enough. He has his opinion, right?
But it's not just his opinion, right? He's like the richest man in the world who's
sure, but you have an opinion too. Like, for example,
I'm not an elected official. I don't work in government.
Well, you have a huge influence when it comes to your audience, right?
Yeah, but I don't work in government.
Yeah, but what does that matter? Like, here's the thing.
Well, if I was part of the government and I was calling for another part of the government to be destroyed,
but I would make an argument that influencers and even actors, etc., actually have more influence on the public than even politicians.
Than most politicians. Is
and most
true.
Yeah, that's
but
why.
Donald Trump, because he's a cult leader, probably not.
But even with you, I think you have more influence than on the public than most politicians.
Individual, yeah, that's probably true.
Probably true. That's what
than
I'm
most
saying.
for sure, especially city council.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, when you say, "Well, I don't work in government," at the same time, I could say, "Yeah, but you have more influence on the public than most politicians." Right?
No, I agree. I was just pointing out why people would probably have such a visceral reaction to everything Elon Musk has done. I think it's super warranted that people would feel horrified by it.
Right. No, yeah, for sure. Okay, I get you there. But I wanted to shoot this back here. When you were stating that, when I was stating that one reason that I think that Donald Trump specifically won this election was also because I think that the left, like you admitted earlier, is notorious for violence, right? We had the BLM riots, the Chaz that happened, right, in Seattle, the Tesla burnings. So I think a lot of the people that voted for Trump was also noticing that the left is absolutely lunatics when it comes to this type of rhetoric. And Maxine Waters, even in 2016, when she was, when Trump won his first term, where she was saying, get in the face of MAGA supporters. When I was, because I'm from South Texas, I would wear a fucking MAGA hat at a bar, and I was getting attacked by people that didn't like that. You know, I think this is what drove a lot of people towards Donald Trump to vote for him, wouldn't you say?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, but
Don't you think it's
So
like,
what?
kind of a big deal, though?
no, because I think that they don't talk about any of the violence that their side is ever supporting, either explicitly or implicitly, at all points in time as well. So how am I supposed to feel bad that people are complaining about Tesla dealerships being burned down, but then they're clapping when people are being deported without due process from this country? I have absolutely no sympathy. And the fact that they can keep doing this hand-wringing of like, the left is so bad and they won't disavow these people, even though the left has to disavow its own side all the time. When Biden...
I don't see any of the left doing that, though.
I don't know how much you're looking at.
Well, I watch your show.
Okay, well,
Like, for
Biden
example,
literally...
like, you didn't even disavow the assassination of Donald Trump, bro.
I wish. It was an assassination attempt, okay?
Oh, yeah, the assassination.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
but am I right
Jokes.
there, Destiny? Come on, man. Come on,
Just
man.
jokes.
Come
Just
on,
jokes. Just jokes. So you can have a standard for my behavior. You can talk about whether my behavior is over the line or not. But I think it's very different when you compare the behavior of somebody in government versus me, who's like a
But
pundit.
you're a guy that has more influence than politicians. That's my point.
Yeah, but it's a different type
And
of
the vast
influence.
majority.
It's a different type of influence, though, right?
What's the difference? Tell me.
There's a different expectation for behavior for things that that I would have versus somebody who's part of the government. Would you agree, or do you think it's the same?
I would agree that
Yeah.
your influence would actually affect people's behavior more so than some random person.
No, it's not. It's about the expectation of like behavior or what would be proper. So if I was an elected official and I was working in the executive branch, it means something a lot different for me to say I hate this judge than if I was just like a pundit and I was like I hate this judge. I think
Right.
Those are so you can have a totally different standard expectation of behavior regardless of how many people you influence or not, just based on the role that you occupy.
Yeah. Well, I get you there, but like my point is that I think you have way more influence than the vast majority of politicians. So that's why I'm saying like when you shoot the rhetoric when Corey, fucking don't even remember the guy's last name, Corey something, I don't know, but he passed away and you were stating something and you doubled down on Pierce Morgan. You said, fuck Corey, fuck his supporters, etc. I think also with your rhetoric, when you were stating that stuff, I think that leaned a lot of people watching that sit and said, Destiny's a fucking psychopath. I don't want to vote for Kamala Harris or the Democratic Party.
Yeah, but at
Like, wouldn't
some
you say
point,
at
some point, it like I don't want to change the diaper of a 25-year-old. Like for somebody to go online and to be making like all of these jokes as Dave Rubin had, and he was on that episode with me about the guy the psychotic dude, that broke into Pelosi's house and was like with a fucking hammer was smacking this dude. It was insane and unhinged. And then again to like have the tears whenever it happens on their side. I think I would rather be unhinged and force the conversation than have to live in this world where the left constantly has to apologize for all of its own stuff and the right pretends that nothing ever happens on their side. Because like the
opposite there.
What?
Yeah, I'm thinking the opposite there, Destiny. Like it's kind of
What Donald Trump came in and he pardoned every single J6er and nobody on the right cared.
Yeah, well, look, the thing, Joe Biden pardoned his entire family and like, what is it, 8,000 people before he left office.
So so two different things. The large swaths of people that were pardoned, that was like a technicality for commuting sentences.
Do you agree that Hunter Biden should have been pardoned?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. And I think that because he has no tact or political understanding whatsoever, Donald Trump proved it when Donald Trump complained on, I think it was a NBC interview, and he said, I can't go after any of the people on the J6 Select Committee because Biden pardoned them.
Well, yeah, that's true, though, right?
Yeah, but
it's not like he's lying there. He can't go after them.
He wanted to go after them politically. There are no crimes here. He just wants to target, when we've seen this administration, would you agree, has engaged in the targeted lawfare.
I would say that even the Biden administration had the targeted lawfare against Donald Trump as well.
And give one example of that.
Okay, well, for example, what's her name? When the judge went after Donald Trump's real estate, right? He said his real estate over there in Florida,
Mar-a-Lago, yeah.
Yeah, that shit. It was worth $18 million, right? We can see from the papers that shit's worth at least $600 million. They're going after his real estate to kind of backtrack on him.
Well, yeah, but wait, what does that have to do with Biden?
Well, because it's targeted prosecution.
But it's not
because
Biden.
you asked me the question. Give me.
No, I asked you. Show me something.
Example of that.
Donald Trump is writing executive orders, literally targeting.
I'm answering your question though, Destiny. You asked me, give you an example of that.
Biden doing it.
The Democratic Party. Remember, you guys are the vote blue no matter who party. You guys are the cult of that, right? It's not like you guys go after Donald Trump. When it comes to the Republican Party, it's kind of, I would say probably 70-30, where it's like MAGA and then Republican, right? Your Nikki Haley's, Mike Pence, etc., the ones that don't support Donald Trump. So it's kind of more divided than the Democratic Party. You guys are a lot more united on that, right?
Donald Trump literally ejected his entire...
When it comes to Trump, guys, everybody from the progressive side from the liberals, all of you guys are anti-Trump. I mean, this is just a big...
But I mean, like, wouldn't that make sense if the guy is so divisive? And the Republicans are super pro-Trump. Like, the approval rating...
You mean the MAGA Republicans?
No, I mean Republicans. I mean,
like Nikki Haley's super pro-Trump?
Yeah, they all support her.
No, she's not, dude.
You can say that, but Donald Trump, the only thing that was buoying his approval for so long was the fact that on the Republican side, literally no matter what he did, it was like 88%, 92%, 87%, 90% approval. Like, it had a pretty wide support from the majority of the Republican Party.
No, yeah, for sure. But like,
but just on the thing. So like, because I can think of several horrible like legal targeting things that Donald Trump has led, but can you think of anything that Biden or Biden's administration, so not a judge in Florida, but like something that Biden ordered? Because that judge could just be an asshole judge, right? It's not necessarily Biden on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like when it comes to the Democratic, I'll tell you this: Biden, of course, he was the face of the Democratic Party for 4 years, right?
Yeah,
you can say that. Also, the Democratic Party as a whole, that's what I'm saying. Where you guys are a lot more notorious for violence, and that's why I'm saying my point here is that a big reason why Donald Trump won that election, not only because of the assassination attempt, right, which you said you wish the bullet hit him, that would have been the best thing. Didn't happen, thank God.
I didn't say those words exactly, but...
Well, something along those lines. I think you said it with Rob Noor or somebody along those lines. I can't remember exactly.
You got about a minute, Jake.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. But my point is that I think that with that type of rhetoric, along with, for example, you guys lying about Joe Biden's... mental health, right? That was another big one. Jake Tapper on CNN.
Why do you assume that people lied about his health and weren't just either coping or...
Well, even well, that's my point here. Even Jake Tapper.
Wait, you can't say that's...
Jake Tapper is literally writing a book about how he covered up, CNN covered up Joe Biden's...
If there was a coordinated effort to cover up Joe Biden's mental health, why did they let that debate happen?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You
can't just say that's
they let it happen.
No, that totally contradicts the entire narrative.
This is why they let it happen specifically because... They let it happen. They let him train for like what, a week or something like that by himself. They wanted to prep him for that because they can't avoid a debate.
Of course, Trump dodged the debate when he was running. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, Biden. That's the thing. They let Biden debate. He got totally smashed, right? But
I don't understand how if there was a whole coordinated effort to cover up Biden's senility, why would they ever let him debate?
Before, they couldn't hold it up for so long. They let him debate. They had to do it eventually.
What? No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they didn't.
Well, then that's going to make them look bad.
Didn't Donald Trump avoid a second debate with Kamala? Didn't Donald Trump avoid debating any of the...
No, he didn't.
Nikki Haley or DeSantis?
He didn't need to debate Kamala, bro.
This is the all roads lead to Rome thing, right? So he can do the exact same behavior you said that Biden couldn't get away with doing.
Well, Destiny, look at it like this, dude. You're a top-tier debater. Why would you, unless you get something... in other words, debating me, you get nothing out of this, right? The only thing that gets something out of this debate is me, right? So when Trump is going to debate Kamala for the second time, he gets nothing out of that. At that point... Joe Biden looks like a moron. The assassination attempt already happened. The only thing Donald Trump has to do is just fuck it. I don't care to debate Kamala because he feels he already has the debate in the past.
I understand the political savvy that goes into this, the calculation, but I'm just saying that
why he avoided that second debate.
Yes, and you're giving me the logical reason, but when we look at Biden doing a debate, if he was truly being covered for by the entire Democratic establishment, then it stands to reason that they would find reasons for him not to do the debate.
Yeah, but they had to do it eventually, right?
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
They can just say we don't do debates. He's too divisive.
Okay, and then they're going to lose the election. This is why it's like...
They lost anyway, no?
And yeah, they lost anyway, so for sure. So it didn't work. But that's what I'm saying. I think the Democratic Party probably should have got rid of Biden earlier and then put in Kamala Harris, which, by the way, nobody here voted for Kamala Harris to be the representation of the Democratic Party.
Sure, so let's say...
Trump is obviously the threat to democracy there.
Well,
right?
because in 2020, he tried to make it so none of the votes mattered and he could just have Pence say who won the election. I would say that's probably worse. The issue with the story, the narrative you're giving is that, like, how is it that the Democrats were all in lockstep? Like, there's two stories. Okay. Either people were genuinely torn on, like, is he just old? Is he actually senile? What's going on? And they just kind of, like, kept it going because why would you take out a person who just beat this guy in the last election? Why would you run somebody different and get rid of your incumbent advantage and get rid of a guy who already beat? Like, that's a really extraordinary thing
because he has mental health issues.
That's fine, but, like, were they genuinely confused about that? Or was there a top-down plot to cover up how senile he was the entire time that went through all of the media and all of the presidency, but they weren't strong enough to just not have one debate?
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, here's the thing, Jake Tapper. And here's the thing: you want to paint the picture to where it's like, okay, they wanted to cover it up. Even Jake Tapper in CNN, who is writing a book about this called "The Cover Up" on Joe Biden's health.
Do you normally cite Jake Tapper on things you believe, or just in this one time?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I watch CNN plenty of times, man. I watch.
Do you
CNN,
normally
I watch
cite
yourself,
CNN as a
etc.
credible source, as like a?
I could cite them at times, yeah, sure. When the argument's here, I'm just saying Jake Tapper had inside information. Wouldn't you say that Jake Tapper had better information than you?
Without even reading the book, my guess is going to be what he's saying is that people saw Biden and they tried to give him favorable coverage because they weren't sure and they didn't want him to look bad, but not that they genuinely thought that it was like a lost cause and he was super senile and they were trying to hide that from the American public. Because if that was the case, they would have never had the debate. It's so obvious.
No, it's not obvious. Destiny. Here's the thing. When you have
Last
the entire
thought, Jake. Last thought.
Okay, yeah, just last thought on here. Destiny, thank you so much for the exchange. That's for sure. It was really good. But I will tell you this, guys. When it comes to the last election here, Donald Trump won this because of the fault of the Democratic Party. The assassination attempt, and then I'll even say Elon Musk even buying X did help Donald Trump in the long run, right? When it was Jack Dorsey, he got kicked out, etc. So that was kind of a thing that kind of helped out there. But I think the Democratic Party shot themselves in the foot, and this is why we have Donald Trump, and people want Donald Trump right now. So that's really what it is. Destiny, thank you so much, man.
Thank you again. Yeah, have a good day. Hey, how's it going? How's it going?
Hey, Benjamin. Have fun.
All right. I am a liberal, but I am someone that thinks that the most important problem in America today is political polarization. I think that we really need to moderate as much as we possibly can. And so I want to talk to you about, like, where do you think the MAGA movement came from? Because my position here is the Democrats for a long time, or I guess the establishment as a whole, has been really focused on improving material conditions. Like you even said it yourself, that MAGA all wants the same stuff. They want, cheap food, housing, ability to raise a kid. And I think that if I had to say that what was the one reason why MAGA has risen is because people don't feel like material goods and like stability and material security, that doesn't create a narrative that you can be proud of for your whole life. Like, that doesn't create a lifelong narrative. And I think people are missing that. Because if you look at the Rust Belt and who are the people that are supporting Donald Trump, like a lot of these people, they have homes, they have a family, like they're totally fine. Like if you look at like the purchasing power of America, we have the highest purchasing power of any nation. And it's like, so why, when we have so much material success, do people not believe their eyes or something? And so it's like, I think it really comes down to people are supporting Donald Trump because the establishment is so focused on the material conditions rather than the narrative conditions.
I think narrative is important. I think another way to kind of phrase what you said a little differently, or to look at it from a slightly different perspective that I think incorporates the same kind of idea, is Democrats have kind of been focused on governing and maybe some like social movement related stuff, and Republicans have worked really hard on messaging over the past 3 decades, my whole life. It seems like Republicans have just always been really good at messaging. Like, even if you think of, I grew up on like kind of the talk radio world. Like, the talk radio world was always way more exciting on the Michael Savage and the Glenn Beck and the Rush Limbaugh side, as opposed to like there's literally the meme of the NPR voice, right? That just sounds like a boring FM radio talk show host that, talks whatever with the jazz music in the background. And I think that one thing that has changed our lives in just unbelievable ways, my life, I don't know about you and I don't know about some of the people in here because you guys are younger, but like the internet has just truly, in ways that nobody could have imagined, and in ways that people don't even give enough credit for, have just fundamentally altered so many different parts of society. And I think that as the internet has changed us a lot, I think one of the things we've kind of run into is a bit of that kind of crisis of meaning. I think that there is so much out there now. There are so many different pieces of discrete information of different facts that people are like hungry for somebody to come together and just weave it all together in a compelling story for you. Because left to your own devices, if you were to go online, you've got the big podcasts, the Joe Rogans and your Daily Wires and your fun social podcast, but there's like a million different shows between Facebook and X and all these other things, and who knows what's right or what's wrong. And I think that Republicans, because I think they've completely given up on governance. They just don't give a fuck about any of that process at all, and they've only focused on messaging. They were able to come in and just capture that space so well. all of my analysis of Donald Trump, I basically shifted gears to this entirely over the last few months. I just analyze him as like an influencer. And I think that describes most of his behavior. He operates in a way that he can just capture so much attention. That's all he wants.
Right. And so, but the reason why I think it's so important to work with Trump rather than to try to say we're going to get rid of Trump and then we're going to fix things. Like, I think that's a losing proposition to say we're going to get rid of Trump and then fix things, because Trump represents taking risk. And the thing that the establishment really has tried to avoid is to avoid taking risks. We're trying to avoid further harming the most marginal communities and the most marginal populations, because when you do something radical, when you do something big, it's going to disturb the system, and the people with the least amount of resources are going to be the most vulnerable to manage that transition.
I would agree with you, but the issue is that he's just so far off in another world. That's
the entire Republican Party.
I know,
but that's
not good.
So this is what I'm saying, that if you want to engage with the Republican Party, you have to start somewhere, and we may as well start with Trump.
But the problem is, if you negotiate almost anything with that side, you've lost fundamentally all the aspects that make America America.
Why?
Because Donald Trump fundamentally doesn't believe in rule of law or democracy or separation of powers or the Constitution.
I don't know if that's true.
Which part do you want to go into? He doesn't believe in separation of powers because he believes that he has the ability to fight with the judiciary anytime he wants. He doesn't believe in the rule of law because he literally has criminal immunity. He's a convicted felon.
I mean, I agree with you that he is not acting as if he believes in those things. However, I think he's just an opportunist, right? Like, he doesn't believe in anything.
I agree with that kind of.
So it doesn't. So,
but you can't work with an opportunist. This is a cancer, right?
You can, because the whole point of liberalism is that when you work together with other people, that's the best thing for everyone.
No, the point of liberalism is everybody involved has to believe in liberalism for it to work.
Well, no, because you have. Like, liberalism is all about individuals. It's all about how everyone comes to the table with their own idea, with their own wants. And even you can say everyone is just ultimately selfish, and still liberalism works under those conditions.
Would you consider it a liberal? If 80% of us all across the country agreed to abolish the Constitution, are we still a liberal society?
Like, what did we replace it with? Like, did we replace it with nothing?
With a king.
With a king. I mean,
because you could do that. I mean, our Constitution could be amended, theoretically. That is possible. I'm just saying that for liberal, something that I think people don't give enough credit for is, in any given group, everybody kind of has to agree to play by a set of rules. And when you start breaking those rules, you step out of bounds a little bit can be tolerated with, and you can negotiate a person back, but you can't play with somebody who wants to play completely outside of the rules. If you had a sibling and you
I disagree with that.
There's a difference between playing with somebody who, if you play chess with a sibling and they make a bad move and you're like, I'll let you take that back. Okay.
Well, then you just play a different game. You play the game that they want to play.
Yeah, but the game we want to play is democracy. And if they want to play a different game, we don't want to play that game. That's what I was saying. With playing the different game means we're fundamentally losing.
You can't just assume and assert that they don't want to play democracy.
I don't have to assume it. I just listen to what he says and what he does.
Well, maybe he's doing that because he gets so much pushback from the Democrats. Right? Like, maybe he's doing that because no one actually understands.
I think that's a totally valid excuse when you're 15.
I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Republicans in general. That
they need better leadership.
No. Like Democrats do not understand what Republicans want. Like, no one is talking about the fact that Republicans don't give a shit about the material conditions. And they say
that's fine that they can say that, but all they cried about for the last election was material conditions. So what are we supposed to believe? It was supposed to be the cost of everything was too high.
The only person that really talked about this is Jordan Peterson. And what happened to Jordan Peterson is he got ejected.
Because doesn't just talk about it. He's talking about a lot of crazy shit.
What I'm saying is, it shouldn't just be Jordan Peterson talking about meaning and trying to put some scaffold around what meaning is, right? There should be more people talking about it. And Jordan Peterson has his own idiosyncratic ideas that aren't all correct.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm not sure if politicians are the best place to get meaning from, because that's a...
No. So what I'm saying is, it's the fact that academia and the elite and the establishment as a whole have not given people the words to talk about their crisis of meaning.
Yeah, but usually doesn't come from it usually comes from our culture, right?
No, a lot of the the articulation, the way that people talk about things, it comes from the top. It comes from the people that are having intelligent conversations about it. Like, liberalism didn't come from the culture; it came from academia.
I could be wrong on this. I haven't studied this area, so I'm on very unsure ground. But my guess would be more that
me too.
That the culture dictates. So people that are making movies and music are probably going to be dictating what our conversations are more than somebody in an academic institution writing a paper about sociology or something.
Like it comes from like those underground, like feminism came from underground academic conversations. Liberalism also, it came from like established institutions, right? And so a lot of that, like,
Sure, but we're not. I mean,
it might not be
feminism or liberalism. We're talking about just kind of like a narrative or purpose, right? It's a little bit different.
I mean, I don't know, because the feminism movement is what gave women the language and the articulation to say what their grievances were, and say it in an intelligent way, and say it in such a way that they got men on their side.
What do you think? Okay, what do you think it should come from?
I think it should come from academia. I think more people should have worked with Jordan Peterson, took him more seriously, and said, how do we articulate this lack of meaning? And because when there is nothing to articulate, then we're going to talk about economics. Then we're going to talk about economics. She's like, of course, because if
Do you think Jordan Peterson was effective in his approach to academia, saying all of it was rigged and that he didn't trust?
I think Jordan Peterson was idiosyncratic, and he made a lot of blunders, and he was disagreeable with people, and he could have been great, but he fumbled the bag. I think.
You got about 1 minute there, Benjamin.
Yeah, I think I lost my train of thought.
My fault. Sorry.
Let me see if I.
You said Peterson fumbled the bag. I asked you because I feel like it's just so weird because I feel like because Democrats are the only people who are willing to ever self-reflect, that Republicans are just unimpeachable when it comes to questioning motives or questioning understanding people. Because like Jordan Peterson would say that like, well, all these trans people, they just want to make it so that they can compel me to speak about their pronouns in this way. And it's like, that's probably not really what most people care about, right? But like, so he's doing the exact same thing, but for some reason it's liberals that have to analyze ourselves for why we're so mean and fucked
We don't
up.
have to analyze ourselves. We're in control of academia. That's why we have to do it. We're in control of any rational thought.
Sure, but like MAGA is literally,
not
I would say metaphorically, before MAGA was opposed to academia. Now, literally today, Trump is trying to destroy academia. So,
well, yeah, this is the thing.
So do you think Republicans are going to be?
We need to fix this. This is critical that we fix this.
Okay, but right now Trump is trying to pull funding from places, and he's trying to blackmail places to get them to change their curriculum and everything. So
I don't like it, but I think if we don't do something about it, if we don't moderate,
so do you
going to get worse. There's going to be.
But you think there's a path to redemption, capitulating the ISIS, but he's trying to destroy.
I don't have time to. I don't have time to get into it, but I do think there is a path to redemption, like a concrete one. But I think I'll end on. Like I was talking to TREY earlier today, and he was telling me about like he's a very successful guy. Like he's got a job, he's got a family, he's just became a father. So congratulations to TREY. I think, and he talked to me about like he's got 2 houses, he's renting out one, and so it's like, but he feels the economic strain. And so how is someone like that, someone so successful, feeling the economic strain, feeling rising grocery prices? How is he feeling that? And I think it's because he feels like. And I think I feel this way, that what are we aiming toward? What are we angling toward as a society? Like, what is beyond just this material wealth? And it's, and the thing is, of course, if you have enough money, you can create your own meaning. And so it's like when prices start going up, when housing gets harder, it's not that we're struggling to survive. It's that it's eating into my ability to go beyond, to really become, to really tell a story that I'm proud of, and I think that those beyond me will be proud of. And I think that is something that we really need to think about more rigorously and try to give that language to everyone so that they can say something beyond just, I don't like inflation.
Okay.
All right, Benjamin. Thanks a lot. Excellent.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to meet you. What's happening?
Yeah, great. There we go. Yeah. Good to meet you. Yeah.
So,
Pull your microphone up.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah. Okay.
So, a lot of people have already made arguments that I'd come prepared with. But one thing that you said with Ben there was that politicians shouldn't be a source of meaning for people. And maybe that's right that they shouldn't be a source of meaning, but it seems like people vote with their values, and their values are attached to where they draw their meaning from in life. And so when you say that, I just want to understand what exactly you mean.
Well, you can vote for somebody because they share your values, but I think it's probably not a healthy thing if we're like looking to politicians to also be like our cultural leaders at the same time. That probably leads to a lot of unhealthy political, like external negative effects, like culty behavior, I would say.
Okay, so how is it that we would then get politicians to embody our values, enact them? And
they can embody them and act them. I just don't know if they should be the ones like dictating our morals to us. Like ideally, you want them to be a reflection of your values, not the ones giving them to you.
Sure, but in a two-party system, ultimately you're going to have like a divide, very binary, and people are going to end up looking to whoever it is that they're supporting, right? Blue no matter who, or I'm always going to vote for Trump because fuck the Democrats, whatever side you fall onto. So people are going to naturally fall into that, and we can argue that philosophically that's not a good way to find meaning. And I don't think people are.
I think everybody's understanding. If you vote for somebody because they align with your values, that's fine. I'm just saying that you shouldn't be getting all of your culture and all of your meaning and all of your value from a politician. These things come from like friends and family. They could come from, if you're part of a religious movement, they could come from some type of like media that you consume, books or philosophers that you read, or movies or TV shows that you watch. Like these are the places of where you find like meaning and stuff. Hopefully you don't get that from like a politician. I think that's really scary.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay. So
they can align with us in terms of values, and we could vote on people and with our values because they align with us in our values, but it's not like, like I really want to save the ocean because AOC made me feel like I should be an environmentalist or something.
Totally. Fair enough. So Trump, the MAGA cult, right? Clearly you look at somebody like Benny Johnson, who, 7 months ago was talking about bread prices and egg prices and all this stuff. And now he's saying it's patriotic to lose money, right? Something that I heard you criticize him for.
Yeah.
But isn't it the same when you look at, say, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, something like transgenderism? Nobody was on board with that. And now it seems like almost everybody on the left is on board with that to some pretty extreme levels, right? Whether it be sports or change rooms. And that may be totally fine. But where did those values come from? They didn't believe that 15 years ago. Suddenly in 2016, everybody on the left was pro-trans or whatever.
I don't think it was suddenly. I think that it's been like a slow evolution of like LGBT stuff and then LGBT stuff over time. I don't think it was like an overnight, now we all are super pro-trans. I don't think that's the same as like Donald Trump saying something at 9 a.m. and then at 12 p.m. saying the complete opposite and everybody being on board with it. I think there's a lot of difference there. Like beliefs and views are going to evolve over time with people. I would imagine people on the left will probably be more progressive as time goes on socially. People on the right will push for their stuff socially. It just, yeah.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say that it's like your values aren't rooted in some time period, and if they change at all, it was like a sudden, unpredictable change.
Okay, so Trump embodies an extreme example of what you're talking about.
I think it's fundamentally different. I don't think the thing is, the problem is that one, it's hard to listen to any MAGA person talk about the things they value or believe in, because it feels like at the end of the day, what they actually value or believe in is whatever Trump says tomorrow. So there are no like limiting principles. Like one of the things we would debate a lot for economics, and people were talking about presidential people would bring up, what is the economy going to look like under both people? And I thought, largely speaking, the Democrats ran it way better. And sometimes people would give me this, like, what about when Kamala said that she would do a wealth tax or tax on unrealized gains? And my response would always be, I think that's so beyond stupid. I'm not even worried about it, because there's just no way that she would be able to do it. Because if she were to go in and try to do something like that, every economic advisor, whoever the Treasury cabinet, like everybody would say, like, this is so stupid. You're not doing this. It's dumb. And she'd be like, oh, okay, fine. Because that's just how the Democratic Party operates. Whereas Donald Trump, we've seen what Donald Trump has done. He'll literally, from hour to hour, can change stuff internationally in ways that we didn't even know were possible. It's so abhorrent. But all the Republicans seem to more or less in the media and in the political sphere are in lockstep with his messaging, no matter what he says, even if they've got to change what they said, a few hours earlier. And that's really scary, I think.
Fair enough. I agree. And I think that Trump is like super dangerous. But to push back on the idea that it's only Trump or only MAGA that's doing this sort of cult behavior, when Joe Biden pardoned a bunch of people, which Trump did something even worse in pardoning all the J6 people, all of the left said, oh, that's totally fine. But
so to be clear, that absolutely didn't happen.
Okay. Well,
in fact, I would bet every dollar I own right now.
Okay, sorry.
To be clear, there were way more news outlets on the left that criticized Joe Biden for pardoning Hunter Biden than there were outlets on the right that criticized Trump for pardoning every single J6er.
Fair. You're right.
So it's not even remotely close, yeah. But okay.
Okay. But would you concede that there is an element of that in the left, even if there's way worse on the right? Way worse with Trump, way worse with MAGA, that there's an element of that cult behavior when people that would have been principally opposed.
The problem is that like there's a threshold that you move past where it's not really the same type of thing anymore. So for instance, if somebody were to drink enough water to throw off the sodium balance of their body and they die, right? Okay, well, this guy just died drinking too much water. It's not good. Would you say, okay, well, sure, he had that unhealthy behavior, but would you agree that you engage in some of that too because you drink water? It's like, well, not really, no. Like, is there going to be some level of like people that follow around political parties based on what people say? Like, yeah, that's going to happen to some extent. But the Democratic Party, if anything, has the exact opposite problem where they're way more self-critical than they probably should be. And the Republican Party is lockstep in a way that would make Hitler jealous in terms of like when one guy says something, when Trump says something, you've got the entire eco-media sphere of the entire Republican establishment repeating the exact same talking point within like 2 minutes. Like they're all part of the same Hegseth signal group or something. It's safe.
So I'm certainly not trying to argue that what, Donald Trump's MAGA cult is anything like what the left cult is, but you got to meet people where they are. It's something like what Ben was talking about, which is that people on the right, for whatever reason, do not trust the establishment. I mean, people on the left don't trust the establishment, but if you're describing, all of MAGA as this cult and you're saying that they're all like this is what the only reason they voted for Trump is because they're in a cult and they'll believe whatever he says. There's people like that, right? Benny Johnson, but
Well, we just need more honesty. Here, we should just enforce more honesty. That's what I say. So if people on the right want to say they don't trust the establishment, okay, and that's why they're all anti-vaxxers now, that's fine. But no more Ozempic, no more Viagra, no more diabetes medicine, no more insulin. Like own it or don't own it. It can't be this I don't trust any of these people except holy shit, I'm Alex Jones and Ozempic is out and now I'm fucking the big pharma #1 consumer so I can lose 200 fucking pounds in a year. And then the next day it's the second kid died of measles in Texas. I mean, who cares? It's 2 kids, right? That's it's unhinged or unreal to me that, supposedly there are illegal immigrants killing people in this country every single day, but for some reason the only person I ever heard about was Laken Riley dying. I don't know why that is the case. And they so hyperfixate on that trans athletes and illegal immigration has to be the #1 thing that we talk about. But how many thousands of people died from COVID for not getting vaccinated? Something that was so easy and so dumb. That's the big issue is I don't even know what people mean when they say things like that. I don't trust the establishment, really? Because
okay. Out of the
Final thoughts there.
out of the people that have been on stage so far, how many of them encapsulate this MAGA cult person that you're describing or this group of people? Because I don't feel like there was, well, I'm not going to say who, but there seemed like maybe one was on that side.
Well, it's harder because you're drawing from an audience of my fans here. But the problem is that we have to get into testing with examples to prove it, because somebody can sound really reasonable until you start asking them questions where the rubber meets the road, and then you find out, okay, well, this is ridiculous, right? So
I guess final thought would just be I just think that your characterization of that MAGA cult side is overly broad, and I think that people on the right do that about the left, much in the way that you were pushing back on some of the statements that I made earlier.
Okay.
All right, put it together for Mr. Brunet.
Thank
you.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Big fan. So,
Okay, wait. Yep. Cool. Okay.
so one of my biggest problems that I had was watching you on Piers Morgan after the Trump attempted assassination. I think you can see where I'm going with this. So I have the question written out for you. So why is the CEO that's in charge of many lives, the health CEO, why do you have more sympathy for him than you did for a firefighter that died?
First of all, I don't even know what that CEO guy's job necessarily was. The idea that we're going to say that just working at or being a C-level exec of, I guess, a health insurance company or something means that you could be executed on the street, we're beyond anarchy at that point. That's an insane standard to set. The thing that I don't like about MAGA supporters is I feel like that movement is quite literally now more than ever is destroying this country in literal senses, in spiritual senses, in so many different ways. So I mean, if there's violence is occurring at these rallies or whatever, it's very hard for me to feel sympathetic, I guess. I don't think anybody should go and kill anybody, but
Of course.
it's such an unbelievably destructive and horrible movement, and it also feels really bad to see all of the Trump supporters. It feels like they're kind of just clapping along with all of it too, which I think is also really strange.
But again, this firefighter was also just a working man as well. What's the difference? There isn't much of a difference other than the political view. And I feel like this rhetoric is what pushes a lot of people away from the left.
I just so don't give a fuck. Donald Trump in his first term tried to deport every single person that was brought here as a minor under DACA. Those people didn't do anything wrong. Those people are registered with the government. They're not committing crimes. They're going to school here. All of those are good people. I didn't hear a single word from any Republican about how absolutely fucking horrific it would be to just kick every single one of those children out of this country. But I'm supposed to have an unlimited reservoir of sympathy for a guy who supposedly God guided the bullet into. I guess if you listen to half the Trumples when they talk about that assassination attempt, I'm sorry, but the guy on Twitter was just as unhinged as every other Trumple. What was he saying? There were a few things. One, I think a joke about the nuking Japan or something, and something about choosing Putin over Hillary to be president or some just unhinged shit. Again, I don't necessarily think anybody deserves to die or anything for political stuff, but even when I just said right there, like for political stuff, like what is just political stuff to some people is a deportation for another person, or an unjust incarceration for another person, or the deprivation of material or economic conditions for another person, or the ability to do scientific research, or to administer a vaccine, or to study in this country, or to, you know, trade in a way that keeps your business working abroad. Like all of those types of violence just fly completely under the radar. And then when there's like one visceral piece of violence, all of a sudden Republicans are running around searching for sympathy. And it's like, bro.
But don't you think we we on the left should be like better than the people on the right? Like that's the whole, that's our whole thing, like of like being on the left.
Yeah, I think the way you be better is just don't be the one that pulls the trigger. But I mean, you don't have to go out here and like endlessly appease people that are shitting on your side, that are celebrating violence on your side, that are clapping like retarded seals every time Ketamine Musk is, you know, on Twitter tweeting out the next retarded fucking thing about some judge. Like, no, I don't think there has to be any obligation. David could have made me look really bad, I think, on the Piers Morgan show if he would have just admitted, like, yeah, the J6 stuff was really bad, but he couldn't even do that. It's like, no, fuck, why the fuck you're coming to me for sympathy? Like, fuck you. Like, you made your bed, lay in it. Yeah.
I guess I see what you mean there, but I mean, like, again, like, even my my dad, he's a big fan of Piers Morgan, and he watched that show and he had no idea who you were, and he literally thought you were unhinged. And I was trying to tell my dad, like, Dad, no, like, I'm a big fan of this guy. Like, he's a good guy. Like, don't he's a good guy. Like, you gotta believe me. Like, but like, I'm telling you, like, these normies, they'll see that, and a lot of people do watch these like hour-long like segments, and
I think
that's where they get their views.
It sounds like really shitty, but then at some point you have to ask, like, what is a culture worth saving? Like, I don't know if I cared to appeal as much to a guy who thinks that like my comment is unhinged, who can turn a blind eye to all of the other people that are being harmed in very real ways by the ongoing administration, and people that they want to harm, and the people that all the other influencers are clapping to be harmed. Like, at some point, like when I remember I got into a big fight with a friend over that same conversation, and they were like, you know, I'm only telling you this because I know you can do better. And I asked them, I was like, how many of your conservative friends have you had this conversation with over any of the other things? Like, well, you know, I don't talk to them. It's like, well, then fuck you. Don't ask me for this. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, yeah, no, like it's insane. Like, it's like everybody's asking us to be Jesus, except we don't come back alive after being dead for 3 days. Like, there's no point in playing that game where you give endless sympathy and charity to the other side, and then anytime something happens on our side, they think it's like an epic, hilarious meme that they control over. Like, this ridiculous.
I mean, like, but do you see those people that, like, on Pierce, again, the Israel-Palestine debate, and they'll ask them, like, do you condemn the babies being beheaded? And they won't condemn, like, babies being, like, beheaded. And it's just, like, you're just, like, just say it. Like, just say you condemn it. Like, you don't think that it'll be a net positive if you do say it?
I would have to see the particular debate, but I mean, it really depends on what side of the debate you're on. Like, if I was arguing with like a deep West Bank settler and they were asking me to condemn violence on October 7th, I would just condemn the location. I wouldn't tell them that I think they have no right to be violent in any way, size, shape, or form. I would say, I don't know why they were going after people in Israel instead of the West Bank. And that's what I would say. I wouldn't concede anything more to an unhinged person who's, you know, living miles into the West Bank. Much the same that if I was arguing with an unhinged pro-Hamas person, I'm not going to, you know, concede that, wow, it's bad when civilians die or whatever, because these people that are looking for... You can't have like you can't have these one-sided concessions. I don't understand. People don't seem to get that when you just get like one aspect of reality, you might get like a faker picture than what is actually real, than if you had no information whatsoever, right? Like, if you can imagine a prism or whatever. No, what's the thing that's like this, but it's long? A cylinder. I don't know why you fucking listed blank.
They were confusing me. I was like, wait, what?
Sure. If you imagine a cylinder, right? If you look at a cylinder from one side, it's a perfect rectangle. And if you look at a cylinder from another side, it's from another dimension, it's a circle. Right. And somebody thinks that if they gather information about one of these things, they're like closer to the truth, or they've done a good thing. Like, that's not true. If one side is making concessions constantly, you're not a little bit better than if nobody had made concessions. You're better off with nobody making concessions than just one side. It's like it's a prisoner's dilemma thing of sorts. And if it is the case that maybe someday, if people on the left are so unhinged that they're not apologetic every single time something bad happens, maybe at some point a Republican will stand and be like, hey, maybe we should be less unhinged. But I have never, ever heard that type of self-reflection from the conservative movement ever. So if that would happen somewhere, I'd be curious about it. But
I haven't yet to seen it too. Like, I get what you mean. I mean, I get it. But yeah, that was like my only question. I mean, I still disagree with you on there. I think you could just say like it's bad, but
All right. Well, thank you, Shabag. Thanks a lot. You can shake Gus's hand if you want.
Hey.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Nice and loud into the mic. Thank you.
You got it.
Well, I'm on the stage with Destiny. You are definitely the most OP champion on the Rift.
okay, thanks. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, we got a PF Young fan. Okay. Try to pull your mic over a little bit to your side of you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
A little nervous.
You're good.
Yeah. Cool. Hey man. Well, actually, everybody really said kind of a lot of, especially last speaker. I really wanted to address on that because I really found out about you with the Tom Bilyeu. I think is how you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Impact Therapy.
that gaming. Yeah. That So I found out about that, and and you tend to say unhinged and brainwashed and kind of, and so a lot of what your last speaker was saying, our last speaker here, everybody did a great job. That rhetoric, obviously, it's and what you had said about the firefighter, that was even to hear you talk just now in that moment, where I come from in rural Missouri, I don't see, the Trumps, they're not like that. So I guess I came here, really just traveled here from Missouri to say like, where, I mean, I guess when you are going after online trolls, I don't think that encompasses rural Republicans. And I've watched some of your stuff like with colleges, when you spoke with colleges, and I thought, man, I wish it would be like more education. And you're just so gifted. Wow, man. And you have the opportunity to, I guess, instead of shame, I don't know how to say it, but I guess what was your thought? What was your thought after the Tom conversation in general? Like that's where you just
the way
went off?
that I feel like if people are upset at things that I say, maybe with some percentage of people, at the very least, I'm forcing a conversation on it, and maybe at some point conservatives can turn that mirror, onto themselves and do a little bit of reflecting. Because I've never heard any conservative give any ground whatsoever when it comes to analyzing any of the harms on their side. And they seem to be clapping for every single thing that this administration does while demanding that the left apologizes for every single thing the left does, even when it's not the left. So like, that world is not sustainable, right? That is always a losing political world. Because nobody on the left gets any virtue for it. Do you think anybody remembers that that Biden and Kamala disavowed the BLM riots? So they said that rioting and violence is unacceptable? Because they did say that, but nobody cares. And Donald Trump went ahead and pardoned every single J6er after most conservative media said, well, maybe he just shouldn't pardon the violent ones. He pardoned all of them. Nobody cared. Republicans didn't say a single, there wasn't a word said about that. So if that's the game that we're playing, there is no, I don't believe there's a virtue in losing political power to try to uphold some other virtue. I just don't think that that's good. It's not
Okay.
do you want to be like I don't know. It's like being like the best swimmer on the Titanic. Like, who cares? Like, if the country is like literally sinking into the ocean on the backs of this insane, I would say, cult movement that exists right now on the right. And one of the concerns we have to talk about is whether or not the left is apologetic enough when somebody on the right gets shot or whatever. Like, that's just not the conversation I think we should be having. I think,
Okay. So, okay, cool. Okay. How about?
I think also to be clear on my side, if I heard like a single, or even like one example, if I heard anybody on the right ever say that this is probably too much, guys, we probably should pull this back a little bit, then I would feel probably a bit different. If a lot of people were saying it, I feel significantly different. If there were a lot of people on the right who were like, when this is being said, this is kind of unhinged, we need to pull this back, but that's not it. It's always like, well, when Trump says it, it's a fucking joke, it's epic, it's hilarious. I can't even remember. People make a deal out of every fucking Biden like statement. Dude, how many times did we see that picture of the speech that Biden gave in 2017 or whatever, or 2021? Yeah, with the red background. Yeah. Meanwhile, Donald Trump on Easter is literally like a drunk, uncle at Thanksgiving talking about the fucking Democrats, blah, 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 and it's like, what the fuck? and like we're supposed to be the party of more decorum. Like, come on, I think that's insane.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
No, cool, dude. I just okay. On that note, talk like I'm working at daycare, so I just talk like this.
Sure.
Okay. I don't see it. Okay. I think it's been like 3 months. I know Trump didn't do anything the first time. I know it's been 3 months or a little over 3 months, whatever. I think everybody in my town is fine. I don't think we're off like you just described it. I don't see it like that where I come from, but I do see it online. Like, I totally get you, right? Like, online, it's wild, man. I mean, the world you live in, and you're the only man for the job, in my opinion. Wow. But
I think that we take for granted how awesome like the responsibility of voting is. Like, truly, at every single election cycle, every single American in the United States has the ability to cast a ballot for who they want to be, arguably the leader of the free world. And the idea that people just don't know or don't care about what's going on, like our system just can't function that way. It can't be if you live in a rural community and you're demanding all these concessions from the cities, or you're demanding all these concessions from Democrats, but you have no idea what Trump is up to. Like, that just doesn't work. Our system has to have some minimum level of informational buy-in. So yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, if people aren't aware of any of the things that are happening, then
yeah, that I guess that's kind of why I say that when okay, I know how to kind of go. I do, knowing kind of your arc. I do wish. How do you feel then about the way you spin it? From what I've seen of your content, I haven't seen it all, man. I can't. But the way you spin it, you kind of, I feel like you spin it where you weren't gonna go with Lex and Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson. You weren't gonna, or like that. You went that route and you tried it, and then I got the vibe. It's like, well, I'm gonna go back to attack instead of build a bridge. And I felt like a lot of what I agreed with Tom so much in that interview with you. I mean, you both did great, obviously. But dude, I was like, Tom, like, you're really trying to like get it. And from where I come from and where I sit, I guess, I don't know. I just, you're not going to build these bridges.
I don't, but the problem is these people started to view me as career opportunities rather than the night terror. I think I should be to these people. The issue that I have is that I don't like the fact that I sat with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens, and I didn't give them 1/10 of the pushback that these people deserve, who are legitimately, again, and the problem is I keep saying this, but I don't think the right understands it, or they just don't care because it's epic and hilarious. Like, these people are destroying the fabric of this country in so many different ways. There's already been so much damage that's been done that we might never recover from, or will take like years and years to recover from. And the idea that when I would look at myself on these shows, right, the bridge that I was building, all of the comment sections were just like, oh, it's so cool that we can have conversations. Oh, we had conversations. Oh, okay, well, how about consider something from the conversation? Like, I don't want people to come away thinking like, yeah, I engaged with the left because I heard Destiny go on to Ben Shapiro's show, or with, talking with Ben Shapiro with Lex Friedman, where every single thing I said came true. Every single thing that Ben Shapiro said didn't come true. And I would say that Ben Shapiro is at least as smart as me. He's a very intelligent person, maybe even smarter. This guy's a Harvard grad. This guy's a super smart dude. This guy, he's not a dipshit.
Nobody's smarter than you, Destiny.
So why? Yeah. So I say this. Maybe he might even be that. So why is he giving me these? Why is he giving me answers like Trump might be a dictator, but at least we have guardrails for that? That's not an answer that any serious human being gives to a political figure. But I kind of, like, for the sake of bridge building, accept it and move on. And that I don't want to be involved in that anymore. I don't want to give people the illusion that the problem is like normalizing a lot of this stuff too, is it makes it seem like that's an acceptable thing to say and it's not completely and totally unhinged.
Okay.
Yeah, but
well, and hey, I mean, my wife didn't even like why are you going all that way for that guy? Like, I hate that guy. They just like, I don't know. I'd be like, I can't even share your content with somebody because they just look at you as like, you're unhinged and you're the brainwashed one or something. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, maybe, hopefully, there might be other people that are nicer or gentler or whatever, but the problem is that like that movement has gone so far off. I don't know. It's cool. And there has to be some reciprocation, and there's none. There's no reciprocation on the other side. There is no desire whatsoever to understand anything about the left, to understand anything about themselves. We can just compare. Look at the fallout of the 2024 election. Every single Democrat news network, every single Democrat or liberal YouTube channel, guys, what did we do wrong? The Democrat Party has to reflect. What's going on? Like, what happened? You know, oh, what are we going to do? Right? What was the outcome of the 2020 election? Well, we didn't even fucking lose. And we're going to run the same fucking guy, and he's going to be even more unhinged than he was last time. And they won. So, like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, maybe that's the way to go. Maybe we should have dug Biden's fucking grandfather up from the grave and ran him as a fucking candidate. I don't know. It seems to be like, that just seems to be the way to go. But when you have a side that is like doubling and tripling and quadrupling down like that, like, imagine, I don't know how old you are, but like, imagine like 20, 30, 40 years from now, you know, you're answering questions to a grandchild and they're like, oh, wow, so Donald Trump was president. He got impeached twice. That's crazy. He got impeached in both of his terms. Like, no, he got impeached twice the first term. Oh. And he got reelected? That's pretty crazy. Why did he have a different vice president the second time? Well, he tried to get his first one killed. Oh, okay. Well, that's insane. There are so many insane things like that are just like a normal part of the American fabric now. And I think it's deeply troubling and damaging and not good. But
I'm so glad that you shared with me, man. Really, I am. That means a lot. I'm happy you're doing this. This is actually the kind of thing that, I mean, my school's watching, my family's watching back home. This is a chance. You're giving the opportunity to share. And I appreciate it, man. You reaching out and doing something like this with just me. This is why you're the greatest, Destiny. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Leonard.
All right, thanks, Timothy.
Hey, how's it going? Good.
That was a bend. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. So I have a
do the microphone thing.
Yeah.
Get it right in front.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little uncomfy.
Yeah, you're good.
Just a tad. So I have I don't think I'll be able to get to it all at all. And again, thank you for doing this. This has been fantastic that you give people the opportunity to do this, and thank you for Travis. So the first thing, I guess, is to piggyback off of the few conversations you just had. I don't want to keep going and beating a dead horse, but because that's kind of how it's probably going to feel. But I feel like you have this very opinionated, polarized view of, I'd say, the extreme right. And I think you group the extreme right in with kind of the right, because there's a lot of, at least from my conversation circles, and they're not very active online, and I think maybe what you view and what you see is the active right community that's online, which is absolutely unhinged, and it's absolutely crazy. But I think there's also a lot of people out there that voted for Trump that see a lot of the things that he's done, and they do not speak up as much as they should, and I think that they should. But the few conversations that I've had with people that did vote for him, I am the one included, to where it's, okay, well, the tariffs are a bit crazy. Let's dial back. Or, okay, well, these maybe the deportations is another thing, along with the fact of the pardoning of the January 6ers. And you also said something earlier about the Jan 6ers, to where you said that nobody on the right spoke up. Are you saying like the right influencers, or are you just saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Because I'm like, there were people that spoke up, but it's just not anybody who's in the prevalent media, which is, again, the issue. So yeah, that's my big issue. But I guess my first question.
You know the differences between somebody who adamantly votes for Trump and somebody who reluctantly votes for Trump?
What?
There's none.
I
think that's the issue. Is there's like, I'll find a lot of these people who are like, oh, I don't know, I don't fully support it. Like, at the end of the day, a vote is a vote. It all gets counted up the same way. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter if he still has support. Like, Donald Trump is an extremely unhinged, like, quasi-fascist, like, just an unbelievable person. And I can't imagine what it would be like to even reluctantly vote for somebody like that. Like, something is so broken, I think, with the concept of America right now, if that's the case. But, so I don't know, when people are like, well, it's not like the most extremist supporters of this guy who... is extorting law firms all over the country and openly bragging about it, is installing tariffs on islands that are only inhabited by penguins, is deporting people without due process gleefully in the middle of the night, has hired an anti-vaxxer as the head of the agency. Like, I mean, there's like a billion different things you're going to say. And it's like, well, yeah, but Kamala was woke.
Well, I don't think that's the only issue. I think there was a lot of people's issue, to where the issue with Kamala that at least I heard was that there wasn't like a consensus around her to put her as the primary. There was not a primary for her. She just kind of was the front runner just suddenly.
Yeah, but nobody believes that. Nobody actually cared about that.
I don't know about nobody. I think
They
nobody
didn't,
in-
because
I
if they
think
did,
nobody in,
because
like,
find me any of these people, and I want to see how much they were tweeting about the fact that Donald Trump refused to debate any of the other primary challengers.
well, that's again where my issue comes in, where they weren't active online. They just had an opinion, and they, so that's
If it was showing up anywhere in the media, anywhere, then I mean,
that's I agree with you there, where they need to make their voice heard and they need to actively be active online. But
or anywhere. It doesn't have to be online. It could be in the media. It could be a politician.
exactly, yeah. But
Why can't you? But you know why you can't do that, though, right? It's because the Trumples will destroy you.
I don't. Well, yeah, they'll try. Yeah, I agree with that. I couldn't say that they'll destroy you, because a lot of them are delusional. So
Well, I mean that you won't have a political career anymore. You'll be gone, right? Trump will primary you. You'll get kicked out of office. Like,
Yeah.
they will want to vote for you. And
especially if you're a politician, yeah.
yeah, like there are no, like the never Trump Republicans are just retirees.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. A lot of the people that I know still think that he won the 2020 election, which I don't quite understand. But so I guess
That's like fucking insane, right?
yes. No, I agree. 100%. But that's
But like you're just like casually dropping what would be the most unbelievable conspiracy in the history of all of in the history of all of governments across the planet for all of time.
I agree.
That election was rigged.
yeah. But there's also the people on the left that I've also seen in my Facebook, groups, or even just Facebook friends that I have, that are just now saying that the 2024 election must have been rigged, because there's no way Trump should have won.
Yeah, but do you know who's not saying that? Kamala Harris.
I
or
agree.
any Democratic leadership.
No, I agree.
And you know who is saying it on the right side? Donald Trump.
I know, I agree.
So it's not, yeah, it's like a different world. And every single I don't know if, I think there was one cabinet person who acknowledged that question and said that Donald Trump had lost the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think everybody else talked around it.
They did, yeah, including J.D. Vance.
That's kind of crazy that the world's leadership in democracy currently has a president that doesn't believe in the outcome of the last election he lost.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it's a big problem too, that I would say most MAGA Republicans are the same way. But I do have another question that's like not relating to any of this. I wanted to know your opinion on, and I think I know it, but your opinion on the deportation of what's the name? Kilmar, I believe.
I haven't dug as much into the legal stuff on that. I think ideologically I'm opposed to it. I think legally I'm opposed to it. But it gets into weird kind of like foreign policy territory, or how much you want to dig into that?
I was digging through the legal process of everything that was going on with him, so I could just go very briefly into it.
So I guess a quick thing. The reason why I have an issue with it is traditionally, prior to maybe Al Qaeda, I guess, when we thought of like terrorist organizations, you think of these like small groups that are non-state actors typically.
Mhm.
It starts to get really weird when a terrorist organization also happens to be like the government or administrator to a region. Now for ISIS, it was kind of different because they took over parts of countries that were still controlled by other people. But like, would you say like the Taliban, would you consider that like a terrorist group? I actually don't know if the U.S. is. I don't think they do. But like, but we would think of them as kind of a terrorist group.
Yeah.
But it's also like they're the government in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
And so like, let's say that you want to protest, and you want to support for Hamas. I mean, like, Hamas is the government of the Gaza Strip.
Mhm.
So are we basically just saying for every single person here with a green card or a visa, you can no longer protest on support of or on behalf of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip because it's related to Hamas, which is
Well, you're thinking of Khalil.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
I was talking about Kilmar.
Oh fuck, Kilmar. Wait, is Kilmar Abrego Garcia?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my bad. I thought you said
No, you're okay. Yeah, they're.
For the Abrego Garcia one, that seems like it was really bad. I'm opposed to that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what because he was here with I believe he was charged in 2019, and then he was allowed to stay, and then without due process, which is my biggest issue, was he was just shipped off.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll have to pull out my phone for 1 second because all of them.
Well, I'm just kind of curious because we went over a few things that seem to be deeply troubling to me. I would say like any one of these things are an insanely troubling thing. You said you voted for Trump. I'm guessing this last election.
Yes.
What would you have possibly been afraid of from Kamala that you think like supersedes any of the stuff or the totality of stuff that's happened so far with Trump?
Well, honestly, to me, my biggest reason for not voting for Kamala, was to the exact reason that I stated earlier, And then I heard a lot of these.
Wait, what was the exact reason earlier?
The exact reason was that there was no primary for her. And the whole reason I
Wait, why would that have to do with whether or not you thought she would have been a better candidate?
Because it wasn't really that. It was more so the fact that I heard a lot of what are the problems, or I guess not problems, worries about Joe Biden from the right when he was running, that he would, ban guns, or about like a lot of crazy things. And then I heard a lot of crazy things about Donald Trump, and I just put them up against each other, and I'm like, well, these things could come true, or we might do okay.
Okay, but I'm like curious, if you look at the record, so Trump banned bump stocks.
Yeah.
Biden didn't take our guns.
Yes.
So I feel like that's 1 point for Biden.
Yes.
What was another issue that we were worried about between Biden and Trump? Biden got the infrastructure bill passed. Trump wanted to do that and wasn't able to. Foreign policy-wise, I mean, we were involved arguably with less stuff. There was the Ukraine stuff and there was the Gaza stuff. But we exited Afghanistan, even if it was sloppy. We exited Afghanistan. We weren't involved in the Yemen stuff anymore. We weren't involved in anything in Syria, basically. I'm just curious, like, what was the thing? If you look at the 4 years of each, where do we give Trump points on? Where we're like, oh, I would rather have 4 more years of Trump than 4 more years of a Biden-esque.
Well, because I think I was going to say that's kind of a hard question. It's not really, because a lot of things that people give Trump credit for, he kind of walked into from the previous administration. So that's where I'm like, I can't really give him the credit for those things, that because Obama should be given credit for those things. So, at the same time, people that said the same thing about Biden, which I don't really agree on. So again, that's where me casting a last minute vote, because that's basically what it was. I was just a very undecided voter. I would like to have a third party in, but again,
I'm still trying to figure out what was it about Trump where you're like, this guy's going to be the better one than Kamala. Like,
it wasn't
what one issue.
It wasn't really that. It was more so just that I weighed the negatives of both, and I'm like, I don't know what could be correct.
What were the negatives that you weighed for Kamala?
Well, again, the unrealized capital gains, which you said again, which I agree with you.
Happen, right?
No, I agree with you. That would never happen.
Okay.
But that's where there were things with Trump where I did not at all anticipate that he would have this gigantic MAGA base behind him. I thought, okay, well, there's got to be someone who will hold him accountable.
Didn't he literally say that though coming in? Wasn't he saying, like, we saw JD Vance saying he would have supported him on January 20th. He would have voted for him.
Oh yeah.
We saw that he was trying to find people who were loyalists to him the whole time. You saw him try to fire everybody in the final weeks of his presidency last time.
Mm-hmm.
Did we just expect that he was going to fail at everything again, I guess?
I guess fail at that, yes. Not fail at everything, but fail at bringing all loyalists in, and maybe it would be a little evened off. Was at least my hope. Yeah, but it
just seems crazy to me that, like, we could have either voted for Kamala, and our biggest worry was an unrealized capital gains tax, which probably would have never happened. And I'm just making an assumption here, but I'm guessing you don't have hundreds of millions of dollars in unrealized.
Oh no, not at all. It was just no.
So
I would love that. Okay. Yeah.
So there was that, and then for Donald Trump, it was like, there's the potential for all of this absolutely horrible, atrocious stuff to happen, but I don't think he'll pick the right people to make that happen. Like, I feel like if I was just looking at both of these candidates without knowing anything about America or elections or whatever, and somebody's like, well, on this side, you got a candidate who might do maybe a bad thing, but probably not. And then this other guy, he could actually be Hitler 2.0, but he probably won't be because you'll have people around him that'll stop him from doing that. This seems like an easy choice. So I'm trying to figure out what is driving us away from one or towards the other.
It's mainly just, I guess, the driving factor was just the hope behind it. So they're just the hope of that wouldn't happen.
Well, no, but what would happen? It was a hope that he would just show up and die, or what is like the hope?
No.
What are we hoping that would happen?
No. I guess what I was hoping what would happen was the economy would continue to build in a better way. Not that we would
continue.
Because it was building.
Yeah, under Biden.
Yes, it was. I agree with that.
So why wouldn't we choose a guy that was building it? Wouldn't that make more sense?
Because there were certain things that that Trump ran on that I agreed on, like deportation. I agreed on that, not how extreme that he's putting it out at all. But I agreed on, which again, it's not like Biden didn't deport anybody. Biden was actively deporting people. But again, I would like to end one of my questions kind of goes into this, was I would like to end the cash and release at some point. I don't know how that would even work or happen. or what we would put in place of that, because it would have to be something.
Sure.
But
Okay, like here's something that bothers me. So you say you don't even know how that would work. The reason why you don't is because nobody actually talks about any of it.
no, I
They talk about like getting rid of things or like, destroying our immigration policy or whatever. It's like, well, what are we going to replace it with? Like, what's an actual solution?
Well,
And I think that's an issue is that like there was a border bill. For whatever reason, Republicans decided they didn't like it, even though it was a Republican bill for the helping border stuff that Trump didn't want passed at the end of Biden's term. Well, now are we past 100 days yet for this term? We still have no legislation relating to the wall at all. Nothing related to the border, nothing related to asylum. Like, really, we have nothing. There's no legislation at all, I guess. So, like, what happened? Do we not care about that, or?
it's not. I guess because it's like, I mean, not me, but Trump, yes. And that's again where one of my biggest issues comes in. Is that
Well, but then I'm also trying to figure out this too, because this is so hard. So people get mad at me, and this sounds mean, and I don't mean to sound mean, but like sometimes I feel like people don't have the real problem. They just talk about things that they think they have problems with because the media's told them they have problems with. Okay. Now, I don't know. I'll be honest. Okay. Because the only thing I know about Michigan is you guys cheated in every football game. Okay. Against Nebraska. All right. Fuck Michigan. And Alabama. The thing I'm perplexed by is that two things that you're voting for are voting against is you're voting against unrealized capital gains tax, which I'm guessing you don't have millions of, and then you're voting against border illegal immigrant stuff. Is Michigan a popular destination for a ton of?
no.
Actually, this seems like a far way to try. I'm like, what is actually going on here? Now, if you would have told me, I think that, I think we could have expanded our Great Lakes by taking over, fucking Toronto or something. Okay, well, I kind of get it. You're closer here. We're closer to the Canadian border. It makes sense.
No.
little little dictatorship.
Yeah, sorry. And then I think you might go so. But so can you see from my side how like that's like really confusing to me as I'm trying to figure out like, what do we vote? Because like everything you've described so far, I could kind of get if you were like, so I just didn't vote. I stayed home and I was like, fuck it. But you didn't. You were driven to the polls to go and vote for Trump. And was it really illegal immigration and unrealized capital gains when you were at the polling place? You were just like these fucking.
Well, no, because it was mainly that I was undecided up until election day, and even on election day, I was still undecided. It wasn't something that I was like, okay, I'm going to vote for Trump. Most of my friends, I told them running up to the election, there's no way I'm voting for Trump. But then I was trying to see who would be in place for Biden. I didn't want to vote for Biden. I wanted to vote for somebody else who I thought was more coherent at the time than Biden. And that's what I was hoping for. And I saw Kamala get put up. And I'm like, okay, but I don't like the way she was put up. On top of that, she's running off of a lot of things that kind of Biden ran off of. And I just kind of feel like it's going to be a copy and paste. And I would like somebody to have more of not that Trump didn't do that from his first term to his second term, but it's more so of I was still undecided at the polling. So I wrote at this point, I would say that I slightly regret it. But yeah, I voted for Trump. And that there is a lot of things that I went into with that. And I was like, okay, well, hopefully the best outcome comes from this. And that's, if anything, I'm not in control of what happens. So I would like for the best outcome to come.
Any final thoughts?
I don't know
Well, yeah. I mean, I appreciate the talk. Yeah.
No,
Cool.
I would like to.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Everyone, big round of applause.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Yeah. Love your fit.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Nice and close to the mic. Thank you.
Try my best.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So I wasn't really planning on debating today, but I can't help myself but yap. And when I saw that someone left, I figured I might try to take my chance.
Okay.
So I'm pretty dyed blue. I'm a big fan. I'm a Democrat fan. I voted by Biden and then voted Kamala. But I think there's one policy that Trump and his team has been espousing and implementing that I think actually is good in the long term. And I think that you on your stream, you've been a little myopic regarding this topic. So what I'm speaking about specifically is tariffs, particularly against China, but more generally to try to bring manufacturing home. Now, I don't think these tariffs are going to work because they're all basically like EO and they're going to be gone in 4 years. But America doesn't have any manufacturing capacity anymore. And if a war goes hot, a lot of analysts surveyed by the Atlantic Council increasingly do believe in the next 10 or 20 years we might have some kind of World War III scenario I don't think America is going to be up to the task of industrializing to fight a belligerent China, bloc.
I think that there might be arguments for tariffing certain sectors. If you're talking about national security stuff, Donald Trump is not targeting certain sectors. There are a lot of actions you could take as a country to become safer if national security is what you are interested in, like, for instance, shoring up your allies or building stronger relations with your neighbors. Donald Trump has nuked both of those. Europe is turning their back on us, and Mexico and Canada, our other two largest trading partners, no longer trust us. I don't think that Donald Trump is instilling any amount of confidence in investment in domestic manufacturing because these tariffs are changing so much. CapEx, it takes a long time to build a factory and to invest in a place and to have it up and running. And even if you would at this point, why bother building in the United States when you can't ship to any other country now because everybody's going to be tariffing you because of counter tariffs? So if there was ever an argument for revitalizing or for bringing some kind of national security to the United States, I think Donald Trump is not. He's taken every single step in the opposite direction of that. If you want to talk about, revitalizing manufacturing, I mean, the largest manufacturer in the world of goods is China, and the second largest is the United States. We manufacture a lot of stuff here. People talk about, the destruction of manufacturing, but under Joe Biden, we reinvested a ton and it was growing pretty significantly. Nothing that Donald Trump is doing, and nobody is saying this, nobody is agreeing that anything he's doing is instilling any kind of confidence in people making investments into manufacturing here in the United States. So if those are things that you're concerned about, honestly, doing nothing would have been better than what Trump is doing now.
And the tariff policy. Yeah, and absolutely. I think that if we're unable to maintain a coherent tariff policy going forward, I think it will crash and burn. And I think even that's probably the most likely scenario. I think the European Union as a whole is slightly beating us out in comparison to China. But because the European Union no longer has, or is beginning to distance themselves from the United States, they've actually implemented a $900 billion rearmament policy, which I think is a much bigger step up in ensuring European defense.
Yeah, but that hurts our defense, right?
It hurts our defense in what way?
Well, now they're not buying stuff from us, so our military-industrial complex is hurt. We're no longer going to be coordinating with them the same way that we would have, like when we do NATO exercises. So our ability to coordinate warfare on a global scale is going to be hurt. Our ability to work with people in an intelligence capacity, like we do with Five Eyes, is going to be hurt. So our ability to ward off threats and see stuff like that is going to be hurt. Our ability to rely on people to come and help us if we did get invaded or if something would happen to us is going to be hurt. That hurts us in every single way. So, it's kind of like saying our household is running out of money, but my 11-year-old child went out and got a job, and I think it's going to help us a lot. And I think in that case, something's probably not working.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my concern would be...
and on top of all that, just one more thing. Mm-hmm. Trump is asking for a $150 billion increase in the Pentagon. So what? If Europe is stepping up so much, then why do we have to ask for even more of a budget increase on our end for our own military stuff? None of it makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that Donald Trump's tariff policy as it currently stands, I don't think really any of his policies are super sensible. But I feel like he's introduced the idea of stronger tariffs, and especially against China. I hope a number of them stick.
I can introduce the idea of parachutes by pushing somebody off a building, but that doesn't make it a good idea. Right. It's none of the goals I think you set out all of them are being pushed against now, right? The United States is probably less secure right now. Would you agree with that? If we are less coordinating with Europe, if less people are buying stuff from us, I think some people have already canceled F-35 orders and stuff. Mm-hmm. So we're probably less secure. We're shipping and coordinating less militarily with people. We've made people to the north and south of us feel very uncomfortable because Donald Trump kept talking about taking over fucking parts of Canada or Greenland.
Yep. Okay.
So I feel like we're less secure now than we were before.
Well, so here's my problem, right? We have a number of really high-value military assets, but they take a very long time to build. And I think the war in Ukraine we've seen, they can be defeated by mass-produced, low-tech, en masse, for instance, the FPV, drone assaults.
So the drone assaults are really good at defeating, no offense, but Ukrainian soldiers that are doing battle from ditches. I don't think the drones could be defeating F-35s shooting missiles from 20 miles away. Like, yeah, they can beat Ukraine, but Ukraine's Air Force, I think, consists of like the extras from the Top Gun 2 set right now. Again, no offense to Ukraine, but like I don't think that war would be a model for what it would look like for the United States. I think that the second Gulf War is probably a closer model to when the United States was to go to war with somebody. We just
Yeah, and I don't want to denigrate our current strike capacity, particularly like in like a principal territory attack by another nuclear power, right? I think nuclear
deterrence.
Deterrence, thank you. Nuclear deterrence is still effective if there's going to be like attacks on principal territories. But I think that, it seems likely to me that we could lose significant parts of Asia, including large areas of our current manufacturing to China. Vietnam isn't a nuclear power. I think it seems like they are actively planning to engage in combat with Taiwan and try to take that country over. I think generally, if we don't have a lot of this manufacturing back home, even for like more simple machines, I don't know how we're going to be able to
say that
an even larger like Chinese.
Sure, like let's say that I bought all of that. Wasn't Biden's CHIPS Act a better idea?
Yeah, the CHIPS Act is critical.
So then it seems like even in that, if that was something we cared about, Biden would have been a better choice than Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think that Biden would have continued to pursue. Now, I would still vote for Biden today, but I think he would have continued to pursue, multilateral trade agreements with China as a manner of appeasing them and trying to bring them into the global, sort of trade alliance.
Well, and also probably it's also good for our consumers and our manufacturing and everything as well, right?
Yeah. So I think that China is good for our manufacturing and that it's a massive skilled labor base. But I think that the Chinese government is actively hostile to ours. Look at how effectively foreign agents utilizing social media, TikTok, and every other social media platform, sourced from places like Russia and China have been at destroying the American ideological landscape.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem. But right now you have one political party and you can't even say the R word around them without them screeching Russiagate and totally shutting their brains off and being unwilling to even engage in that conversation. So the idea that Russia and China are trying to influence us on our social media, okay, well, let's go ahead and tariff every single country on the planet by 90%. That's just an unhinged response, and it's probably not getting us any further to any of those goals. One of the big issues I have is that it's just, I feel like Trump swings with a sledgehammer and then people will look at the shattered pieces of whatever is left on the ground and go oh, well, that thing was kind of messed up before, right? And it's yeah, but Jesus Christ. It's just, this isn't effectively combating anything. It's not effectively moving us into any positive direction. I feel like we're getting worse on all of our goals. Manufacturing is going to be worse in the United States. Every single manufacturer has said so. The security is going to be worse in the United States. The fact that people are canceling orders and we're going to be working less with other countries seems to further that. If we were worried about places like Taiwan getting taken over, well, I mean, if China looks at how we were treating Ukraine and Russia, why wouldn't they? I'm pretty sure I don't know if Trump has said we wouldn't do anything in Taiwan. I feel like he's made statements almost to that effect. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like if we did care about any of these things, Trump is basically the worst guy for the job. Right.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts there, Mr. McDowell?
Absolutely. Yeah. No. And so generally, I do think I agree with you. However, I don't think that anyone else would be batshit crazy enough to implement or normalize the idea of wide-ranging and large tariffs to protect what we would consider to be low-level or crappy manufacturing jobs. I agree that they're low-level and crappy, but I am worried in a future 20 or 30 years from now that we might be fighting, a large power block that has taken over a large amount of even the foreign, basic parts manufacturer that we're currently utilizing. And if they decide to just stop trade with us and become the global hegemon themselves, we're not going to be able to stop them.
Yeah, but I guess, because I have to ask, just let's assume that these manufacturing jobs come back. Who's going to work them? Because our unemployment is 4.5% right now.
Yeah.
We also want to deport 20 million illegal immigrants that are also working in the United States.
I think what I would contest there is that it's actually relatively easy to permanently disable a large number of the modern conveniences that we appreciate. Satellites, especially United States satellites, China has mixed their commercial satellites with military use. But a lot of them can be lasered down. That technology currently exists and has been tested. Internet could be cut. If China wanted to hold the world hostage right now, I think they'd have a pretty good shot at doing it. So what I would say is that, yeah, no one wants to work those jobs. They suck, and we don't have the capacity currently. But if we aren't prepared for a world in that state, I think that we could wind up in a situation where a large amount of our service economy just kind of gets shuttered because the technology has been, the global internet's been sliced, our satellites are no longer available. We lose a lot of those, conveniences of modernity.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I guess I would just say that I think that if this is a thing we were legitimately and genuinely concerned about, what we would be doing is we'd be trying to build up like Mexico or South America or our European partners more so that they have a larger capacity for that type of manufacturing instead, rather than nuking half of our economy in the hopes that somehow we're going to be outcompeting the 2 billion Chinese people at making widgets. But I mean, that's,
that's just how it is. Okay.
All right, everyone. Mr.
Thanks so
McDowell,
much. Yeah, thanks, I
big
appreciate
round of applause.
Thanks.
And keep it going for destiny. Well, Steven, thanks so much for doing this. I think everyone really enjoyed this tonight. Yeah, you guys like this format? Yeah. And everyone on YouTube, there will be an after party in our Discord server, so head over there, say hello. There will be a bunch of rooms open up where you guys can discuss the event here tonight. The easiest way to get there, go to youtube.com/Pangburn, and our link to our Discord server is there. We're going to give Steven a 5 to 10 minute break here, and then we'll do some poster signing, and I hope you guys join us for that. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure to be in this room with you guys. So thank you.
All right.
Yeah. After all, thanks, Steph. What?
You and I are predetermined nonsense, and that's okay. You and I have predetermined consequence, and that's okay. And that's okay. You and I are locked into our destiny, and that's okay. And that's that's okay.